I have no idea what episode we're on anymore for Fuzz Club, but today we're talking about Slift and their new album that just came out called Ilion. Before we jump into too much, let's go around and introduce ourselves real quick. Chris, it's been a while. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Been crazy busy. Chris from Stay Dead.
Eddy.
Eddy from the Endless Lotoc and Aiwass.
Benriz.
Benriz from Lost Dutchman.
And Bucky.
Doom Charts, Bandcamp.
Right on. All right. So Slift. I didn't get a video from them. I reached out. They're a little bigger than I. I didn't hear back from them. I swear I'm not bitter about it or anything like that. It's not going to go into my judgment of this album. Although I wasn't a huge fan of this one. I heard lots and lots of good things about it. I liked the album before this. What's it called? Uman, I think. I don't know if I'm saying any of these words correctly, and I'm probably going to mess up a couple of their song titles as well. But I don't know. This one was tough for me. It's a little more prog rock that I'm used to. What's everybody else think? Were you aware of Slift before this? Because I know their last album did pretty well, and I think I liked it when it came out. But I don't know. This one was a little different for me.
Who actually put this album out? I saw it was like licensed out to a bigger label.
Sub Pop is all I ever saw. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big label.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I was the one who put this out for the vote. It was a few days before it released, and I had pre-ordered it based on how much I love their last album, Uman, or whatever you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of with you, Ryan, as far as that last album blew me away, and this album came out a little different, and I'm still on the fence on like what to think of it. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So
I've seen a lot of favorable stuff out there so far. I've seen a lot of people talk about like an early contender for album of the year, stuff like that. But for me, I struggled with it, and we'll get into some of the reasons why and whatnot. But Eddy, Ben, what were your initial thoughts on this? Did you know Slift going into it, or was this kind of your first introduction? And how'd you feel about it?
I knew a little bit before. Like, I couldn't get into him as much before as I did with this one. Before I found it was a bit like it was almost like too much for me to take in, and I couldn't like grasp it as easy as this one. Like, I love this album, and I think because it got more slower in parts and more like diverse, I guess, and I love every song on this, man. Like, even the slower ones is the ones that I like more. I kind of like skip past the first two, and like the more slower tempos, that more drawn out songs, that's the ones that I gravitate towards more easily, I think.
Yeah, interesting. Ben?
Well, piggybacking off of what Eddy was saying, it is a slow burn. It takes like 2 or 3 tracks for really something you would be anticipating from an album from that genre to begin. Not to say that the music's bad. It just I don't think I personally was strapped in for that. Yeah. And then it I gotta say it wasn't the right album for the morning, but then I turned it back on in the afternoon, and it really was the right fit. It's real drawn out and spacey in spots. Overall, it's a good album. But to what you said, Ryan, it doesn't smack as hard as the previous one, at least to my ears,
Yeah.
I thought it was as far as production quality goes, it's beautifully produced. Yeah, I was blown away by the production quality of it. But going into it, like going into that first song, and they had that really wild sort of bass line going on, and it gets kind of heavy and grindy, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be kind of Isis-y is the feeling I was getting at first. But it just sort of, it calms down. There's some pretty wild transitions, but it does get super spacey. And there were parts, I want to say it was like maybe the 4th song, that I was like, when it kicked in, I was like, is this the same bass line that they were using in the first song? And I think that it was. Like, it sort of traveled through the record, that same bass line, which was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's one thing that I didn't do, and maybe I should have. I have a video here that I want to share in a few minutes, but just to get kind of like a live reaction kind of thing. I haven't even watched the video, but it's them playing a song off this album. But one of the things that I didn't do was listen to it straight through. I had it on kind of shuffle, and which is probably not the smartest thing to do. Probably not with like a lot of progressive rock and stuff like that. You probably really should listen to it from beginning to end. So maybe my assessment's not quite fair to them, but you know, listening to random songs that pop up on my playlist while I'm working out or something is probably not the way to listen to this album. So that's my bad.
Yeah. I kind of agree with what you guys all have been saying. For me, I think I mentioned to you, Ryan, it definitely, once that first couple songs hit, I was really into it on the first half. The second half really just kind of meandered out into like no man's land, which I think maybe it's going to take a few more listens, but it certainly wasn't near as accessible to the listener as their last album was, which their last album I wouldn't consider accessible by like general standards to a listener either, but it was a lot more like rock and roll feel or punk. This one's certainly goes out on that progressive rock, like super intense. The bass line's what sold me on this band. The bass work is intense. Like I love the bass. It basically is, and then they throw in some other like instrumentation on this album. Like I don't know if it's sax. I thought I heard some saxophone.
Yeah, lots of sax.
Yeah, the sax was something that
I heard some strings in there at one point. Yeah.
Synth too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from a production standpoint, like you mentioned, Chris, like it's superb. Like, and I think that's what's garnering a lot of praise from like the scene, is that these guys really know how to put music together, whether the average listener is gonna like be attracted to it or not. Like I wouldn't say this is gonna hit the mainstream at all, but in the underground, they've blown up since the last one.
I was gonna say I read something just this morning about how like getting hooked up with Sub Pop on this album and stuff, they were trying to appeal to a little bit more of like an alt crowd. And I was gonna call it the Pitchfork crowd, but Pitchfork just closed its doors, so I guess that doesn't apply anymore. But kind of more to an alt crowd, less on the like metal rock crowd. And I would say that's probably pretty accurate. I don't know if that was why is like Sub Pop's influence or anything like that, but I would say that it makes sense.
I feel like it's almost like a great soundtrack to something.
Yeah, it's very cinematic.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
like the first, I think they released a couple of videos, and it's all like outer space theme, and it fits really good because it's like the music is just so out there, it's just so like expansive and fits like that type of theme. Anyways,
yeah, there was a few tracks on here that I felt like were pretty strong, just as far as like singles and songs and stuff. The Words That Have Never Been Heard. I was just looking up some of these.
That was the one.
The Story That Has Never Been Told. That opening track, I think maybe stuff like that, are a little bit more like structured songs. I mean, they're definitely like proggy and they're definitely long. They're like 11-minute songs. But some of these other songs on here, Confluence, Enter the Loop, You Ruck, if that's how you say it. They were more instrumental, and to me they just kind of went nowhere. Like Enter the Loop is how they closed the album, and it was like I think 4 or 5 minutes of just kind of instrument. It felt like it was building to something. I felt like it was still going somewhere. It was like a long intro. It would be like a decent intro to the album or an interlude, but it was how they closed the album. And to me, it was just the same 4 minutes. It was just over and over the same thing for 4 minutes, and then it was over. And that's how they closed the whole album. And I was like, what was that? Why did you put that at the end of that? Why'd you make it? And why is it at the end of the album? I just didn't get some tracks like that. Confluence was another one that I was like, where's this going? And then it would just be over. And I'm like, nowhere. That's where it went. Like, why?
You just don't get it, Ryan. Come on.
I don't. And I've said that before, even on this podcast, being like, I'm not the guy for these like long meandering songs. Sometimes I struggle with instrumental stuff. I'm definitely not like much of a prog rock person, but like, I think I got this one even less. I don't know.
Yeah, they're like
like I said, some of those songs that were like the stronger single songs, they weren't my favorite, but I understood them. But Confluence, End of the Loop, some of these I was like, what is the point of this? Why is this on here? Why'd you make this? And why are people going crazy for it?
Yeah,
maybe someone can explain that to me. Someone that liked this album a lot, maybe explain to me what it was about some of these songs.
I like Confluence, like had like that saxophone, and normally I absolutely can't stand any horn instrument, but this one was really good. I liked it because it was like long, drawn out notes, lots of reverb, and like it worked. But like the last track was kind of like what's going on here was a bit odd, but it seems like they're just like pushing boundaries, and they don't really care about making your typical song, and it kind of seems like they just did it for themselves and what sounds good for them, and don't really care what anybody else thinks.
Sure,
people can respect that too, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, the saxophones kind of blew me away too. I mean, when you're not expecting it, I'm not opposed to horns in songs, but like in heavier or darker music, I mean that horn's got to be special for it to get included, and I think that they found a way of making it work. I mean, it's not as weird as like when Rivers of Nile like threw a sax solo in one of their songs. Not that it was a bad thing; it just kind of takes you by surprise, and then you kind of get into it on like the second or third listen. So maybe it'll have that effect, Yeah.
Who was that band we covered a while back? It was an Italian band, and they had like 7 different like instruments going on. Messa. They did it so well, and they had some
they're really good at
in there and some.
I like those.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan of the sax when done right. Like there's several like heavy bands with the sax, like Spider God is a big favorite of mine that has sax in almost every album.
Resin? Does Resin use a sax? Or
I think
they might.
They have a few different things. I don't know if it's a sax necessarily,
but again, it comes back to that bass line. Like that sax was playing on that. I think Confluence was when it first kind of hit me, and then that rolling like bass line, just like it's almost like making your heart rate go up. When you're just sitting
intense.
There. It's intense, and I kind of like that, and I could see this album being one that, like, if you were like under the influence of some sort of like drug, that you could just be like, just freaking out. Like, it's
definitely grab yourself a handful of mushrooms before this album.
Yeah. So I want to share this video. Again, I haven't even watched it. I was going to pick one of their music videos, but I thought maybe this would maybe show me a little bit different side of them. It's more of a live video. We don't have to listen to the whole thing. They're all pretty long. I don't know if we want to spend 11 minutes on this, but I'm going to play it, and maybe we'll just get something else out of it that I was missing at least, and see how that goes.
Yeah.
KXP. That's their last album. Their freaking performance was amazing.
That's awesome.
I'm hoping this is the same. Yeah, I hope that's what this is.
Oh, so. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Yeah, this is what I think. This is a new song on the map.
Oh, well, maybe I fucked up. I thought this was a new song when I looked it up. But we'll see.
Well, it's a good source for this stuff too, though.
Yeah.
I was gonna mention this in the talk today, so we can talk after.
Okay.
That bass line.
Is that enough for everybody? That was not even quite halfway done. So,
Jeez.
Yeah. I could have kept going, but for the sake of the
Yeah.
show, that was cool.
I thought that was cool too. Honestly, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those things. And we've said this about a few other bands on here, or at least I have. seeing a band like that play live in you know the thralls of it, of just like going to town, going crazy. Love it. That was enjoyable. I would love to be there. I would be super into it. Something got lost in translation to the album for me, where like even that song, never heard it quite like that when I was listening to it the last few days. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and was that a new song? I can't remember.
It did popped up in the corner.
Yeah,
It
I
said
think that's the
Ilion.
first
song.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So they did, because I'm pretty sure they did a whole session with the release of their last album.
Yeah.
And that's what actually, I remember somebody shared it on like social media, and that's where I discovered it. I watched this KEXP session of Slift, and I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
These guys are like, they blew me away. And then I got the album, the Uman, and the album, I went back and listened to it over the weekend, and I prefer it over this new one at this point. But yeah, just that was pretty intense. Like the live, seeing him play, you could see what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much energy. Holy shit! And the bass player is crazy. Like the stuff he comes up with.
Yeah,
Because he plays bass though. That's the mind blower, right? You know, he's just not playing rhythm guitar on bass. He's actually playing bass. It makes it stands out. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all mixed everything.
the actual musicianship in that album is phenomenal. Even though it's not my cup of tea. I don't get into the progressive stuff so much, but I mean they are phenomenal musicians for sure.
Yeah.
It's like the jam band of the metal scene. Like it has that jammy, like going just kind of noodling off into wherever they want to go and take it.
That piece really reminded me of like Earthless, you know, like how Sonic Prayer just kind of goes for like, you know, a good 20 or 30 minutes when they get into it good. That kind of had that flavor, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I was like,
Shit,
heard
the bass. I got the bass.
I was like, what's Ryan doing?
Yeah.
I do have the artwork here, and I'll share it. I could not, for the life of me, find anything about it, so I have no clue who did it or what's it about or anything like that. But some sort of like alien type creatures eating spaghetti, maybe. I think. Maybe.
I thought it was really cool. I couldn't stop staring at it when I was listening to the album. I was just like staring at the art.
It also gives the vibe that it's going to be a really heavy album. Maybe that's why I felt a little misled or something. I don't know.
That also looks like a meat grinder when you put the stuff in the meat and it comes out through the hole.
Definitely, yeah. It's definitely a meat grinder. Yeah. But I looked today a little bit. I couldn't find the artist or anything about it, so I don't know. But I just thought I would share it either way.
It's a
I wonder if it's the same. I was going to say, I wonder if it's the same. It kind of looks similar theme to their last album, which was like some kind of Terminator looking like silhouette of a like alien or something as well. And it caught a lot of eyes. I remember with the last album, their artwork. So I don't know if you could pull it up, but anyways, the colors this is red and black. The other one was like a black and white and silver kind of theme, but real glossy.
Yeah, I'm trying to grab it here real quick.
Yeah, I had high expectations for this album. I think their last one was like in my top 10 of the year. It kind of came in as a surprise, and
I need to go back and check that out. I'd never heard of them before this.
Yeah, no, I hadn't before their last one, but I think they might have had some material before that even. But
I think it's a pretty cool like background track when I'm working, throw on this album and just kind of go to work.
Yeah.
That's how I treated it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's got some similarities
Yeah.
for sure.
I think that album is kind of going to go down as one of those like modern classic game changer albums.
Mhm.
Like the timing it came out and everything. It reminds me. They remind me kind of Elder, not in so much how they sound, but how they like who they appeal to.
Yeah, I hear you,
And,
Max.
and Elder went Elder went kind of that direction too, where every album kind of progresses and gets a little different, and they take chances. I think this Ilion is like they were certainly progressing beyond what they did last album, like taking it in a different direction slightly.
Damn.
So
Yeah, there's one track on here that
they might lose some.
the track that the story that has never been told. It's something about that one that reminds me of Elder a lot. It was like the kind of like the clean guitars with lots of reverb and delay or whatever, and really like flowing vibe to it and kind of long structure to it.
That was one of my favorites, I think.
Yeah. I kept feeling like it was missing a good scream or a growl or something to make it just a little bit heavier. And that maybe that's not their thing. Maybe that's not their audience or whatever, or maybe that's what they're moving away from, or I don't know. But I felt like it was missing a little bit of that a few times.
I think I would agree in that the instrumental, the ones where it was lacking the like shouty vocals, were kind of lost me a little bit. I was like waiting. I wanted more substance, like the vocal, even though if you probably just sit back and relax, it's probably okay. But it takes some patience. Some of those more instrumental.
I didn't smoke enough
moments.
weed in researching this album. I know that I didn't smoke nearly enough, but
yeah,
We got homework now.
Someone that did probably really enjoyed this album. Is there anything else that anyone wants to say about this one?
It certainly, I could not put this album on in the car with the wife and kids.
Yeah.
Like it's this, especially this real progressive, like jammy stuff, psychedelic. My wife, it's like nails on the chalkboard to her. And
Sure.
I don't like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, but I'm like, sometimes I'm like, come on, just like listen, like relax.
Yeah,
Don't you get it?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love this album. Like, I'm more into this kind of stuff, like progressive and like long drawn out songs, and like I love the instrumental stuff. When I first heard Weaver's Weft, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, this is what I needed, kind of thing from this band. This is what would draw me into them, and even the video is wicked, man. Like all the space shit. I'm into that. So,
did you say that you listened to Uman before, or no? I don't remember.
Not in full, like just a couple of the main songs they had, and like I liked it, but I wouldn't something that I would go and put on because it was almost like too jammy for me in a way.
Okay.
And the first two songs on this album felt like that to me, and like once I got those two out of the way, the rest of the album, what I really liked on this.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that aside from what you just said, Eddie, I think a lot of us thought that Uman was a little bit more of our speed. It sounds like a lot of other people really love this album. It sounds like people are putting it on their year-end list already here in January, so I'm sure we'll hear more about it as the year progresses. But I don't know. I think that's about it for me. I don't have too much else to say about it.
Yeah, Uman came out early in the year too that year. I remember it was like a February or March release, and it ended up making a lot of lists. So
yeah, I'm surprised I didn't hear more about this one when it was like in like pre-order and stuff. I didn't even know this was coming out until it was like a couple days away.
There was one song single on like their Bandcamp pre-order, and when it popped up on my radar, I pre-ordered it like that day because I'm like, this is gonna sell out. Like I remember Uman like went nuts and like you couldn't find a copy after a while. Like it really took off. So I like this one, kind of like Green Lung. Like you got to get, if you want a copy of the record, you got to buy it now. But there's probably a lot of copies with being on Sub Pop, so
yeah,
it might
maybe.
last a little longer.
Did you get the loser edition? I don't remember what was included in that. But...
the one I got, I still have it. I haven't opened it yet. It came in like the day before, a couple days before the release, and it's the loser edition. So
I wasn't sure what was.
There's a couple variants.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you had to be a loser to pre-order.
Yeah. I feel like I probably could have qualified.
Yeah. Custom made for us.
All right. Any final words on this one?
Yeah.
Going on any album of the year list for anybody yet?
Too early to tell, Ryan. Too early to tell.
Way too early.
Possibly, I'm not sure.
It is. I got to listen to it again a few more times.
All right. Well, Chris, why don't you lead things off for us? Tell us what you've been up to. It's been a while since you've been on the Fuzz Club. I'm sure you've got lots to report to everybody.
Yeah, life has just been insane. But yeah, I think I've been talking about the last 6 months. We're finally getting ready to wrap up this EP. Well, we finally are. And we have a lot of cool cameos on it.
Yeah.
Blake from Aiwass, he did some guitar work on it. Erica Furr does some vocals on it. We got Troy Sanders from Mastodon that does some vocals and bass work. And we got Matt Pike that he does a solo on one of our songs. What's funny, actually, real quick, is when he recorded the solo, he called me and he's like, "Hey, I threw some vocals on there too." And I was like, "Awesome, really?" We weren't expecting that. And when I got the tracks back from his studio and I was listening to it, I'm like, the vocals they're really cool. And I passed it on to Ryan Garney, who's doing the vocal work for the record. I'm like, "Here you go, man." And he's like, "What is Matt saying?" And I was like, "I have no idea." So that's kind of the going to be the big, like, what's he saying? I don't know.
Nice. Yeah.
Awesome.
I can't wait for that. You have any idea, like, when?
We're just wrapping up vocals now. Esmond is he's ready for it, so he's ready to engineer it, and he's actually producing the whole thing for us too. So I would say, and I would say maybe late March.
Awesome. Really looking forward to it, man. That's awesome to hear. Very cool. Eddie?
The Aiwass album, the debut album just came out on the 23rd, and we're really excited about that and pushing that right now.
Oh yeah.
And we got our debut album release on the February 3rd at the Aviary here in Edmonton, which is sold out already. And Lotoc is still working away on the next album, and Aiwass has something coming up pretty soon that I can't say too much about right now. It's a little something.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Ben?
Well, I don't got anything fun and exciting coming up, but just for our current viewers, I would healthily encourage you to listen to past episodes of the Fuzz Club, because there's awesome content, and I never hear us like bumping our own stuff. So watch our past shit.
Yeah, I don't do a good job at that. I don't think I've ever done that. Bucky?
Well, so the Doom charts pretty much wrapped up all the year-end lists for 2023. They put up the top 100 last week, which is always a pretty cool list, pretty comprehensive. And I guess when this comes out, it'd probably be the January charts. Probably be next Friday, I believe it'd probably drop the first Friday of the month. So a lot of albums coming out in January, like the Endless, Eddy, your album. I've heard a lot of chatter about it, so we'll see what the charts bring. So
yeah, January, February, March, those are usually some pretty good months for all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's kicking off strong, and can't wait to see what comes out in the next few months. It's cool. All right, guys, go listen to Slift, or don't. I don't care. We'll
whatever. Doses.
We'll see you on the next one. Later, guys.
See you guys.